Well, hey folks, it's your old pal King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. The other day I decided to put out a version of the rules handbook for the Total Party system that was tailored specifically to go with Girls Gone Vampire. Now to do so, I had to get back into Google Docs. I haven't used Google Docs pretty much since I got the MacBook last year. It's what I wrote a lot of my early books on when I only had access to a Chromebook. But the books I've written since, you might have noticed if you're one of the longer term collectors like Shawner and such, that there's a sudden shift in like the book quality, and that's largely because of the MacBook. So I hadn't been back on Google Docs in a while. But unfortunately, the file for the Total Party System Rules Handbook was cranked out in Google Docs as one of the last things I did in Google Docs, so I had to open Google Docs. And when I did, I got a little message saying, oh, hey, congratulations, you've been selected to participate in a beta test for Google Docs' new AI, to help with writing and stuff. So, I went ahead and clicked, yeah, sure, I'll play with that later. Then I went ahead and did my, thing. Put out the Total Party System Rules Handbook Girls Gone Vampire Edition, which you can get now on DriveThruRPG and Amazon.com. Not only is it aesthetically formatted to fit with Girls Gone Vampire, but I actually think it's a tighter and better version of the Rules Handbook, albeit it's basically just all the same information. I did add a section on regular modern-day type vehicles, and kind of a basic starting location at the end of it, and took out the Starship rules because you don't need Starship rules in Girls Gone Vampire. But other than that, it's basically the same material, so don't just jump out there and buy it unless you actively, want a copy to go with your copy of Girls Gone Vampire, so your little section of the shelf matches and all that kind of stuff, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, though, once that was all done, I decided to check out what's up with the Google Docs AI writing assistant. So I took one of my, shorter books, Lady Spy Detective, and I started highlighting sections and allowing it to rephrase or elaborate. And, the first part of it, which is just talking about the rule system, everything seemed fine. It was a little inconsistent about whether or not to break some things into bullet points or to make like a little bubble chart and stuff like that. But it seemed to understand the rule system, which to me I actually find reassuring that the computer can get its head around how the rules work and be fairly consistent in how it represents them. The problem is once you got past the rules in the character creation section into the parts of the book that talk about different kinds of spy agencies and, countries that were active in 1955 that you can use in adventures or for player characters and all that kind of stuff. Some bits of that it could handle quite fine, but I noticed consistently that there were certain sections that it just froze up and is like, I don't know what to do with this. Now, it's one thing if you're, if it's like an item equipment chart and it doesn't know what to do with that. I can understand that. But, going back and forth between talking about different countries in 1955 or different kinds of spy agencies, the only spy agency it would address is the most fictional ones, which were the occult spy agencies that deal with, like, psychic phenomena and ghosts. It didn't want to talk about think tanks, didn't want to talk about guerrilla operations, it didn't want to talk about counterterrorism, it didn't want to talk about organized crime. All those sorts of subjects, it just kind of climb up on and say, sorry, we don't know how to deal with this right now. And so I just move on. Same thing with countries. Some countries it was fine. It had no problem talking about India or Japan or America, but for some reason it didn't want to address anything about Iran or Russia or Argentina for some reason. And considering that it was able to handle text blocks around those sections perfectly fine talking about other countries, or like I said, it had no problem talking about occult agencies because they're the most fictional kind, there just seems to be certain hot button, hot political type topics or stuff that might strike it as a little too close to reality where it doesn't want to address that. Now, after that, I decided to take one of my old short novels that I'd written that I don't currently have available for purchase. I was thinking about rewriting them, but frankly, they're just too much of a mishmash of violence and eroticism, and I don't know. I don't even think they're worth trying to rewrite from scratch. But just for fun, since the files are there and they're just plain straight fiction, I decided to start running one of those through the AI. And it starts Disneyfying it. It's constantly trying to veer things off into conclusions where everything's happy and everyone gets along, yay. Now, combined with other things I've heard from other people who've been using AI for writing stuff, or observations. My wife has a job where she goes through and verifies whether or not AI responses to people's queries are accurate or not, kind of a thing. So I've been getting like kind of some behind the scenes kind of glimpses at the kind of stuff that, you know, these systems are producing for people. And the restrictions that are put on them are the problem. And it's why I think we're all being a little premature and freaking out about the idea that somehow AI is going to be able to be a good game master, or AI is going to be able to make a good movie script, or any of this stuff. It'll probably be fine for children's entertainment, because the restrictions it has on its ability to interact or answer certain questions are basically designed so a kid can ask it a question and not get access to information that's above their pay grade. And in regards to some of the stuff that it wasn't translating out of Lady Spy Detective, I'm sure there's also things about it where the companies that are making these products don't want to get sued later because their AI chat generator is writing porn or giving people instructions on how to build a nuclear bomb or any of that other kind of stuff. So it's just not allowed. It's just not allowing itself to address certain topics, and because of that, its ability to actually tell engaging, interesting, original stories is heavily limited, because there's all sorts of subject matter it just won't even address. And it's constantly trying to make things as syrupy and friendly, and they all live happily after kind of stuff. Plus, it seems so driven to make everything so syrupy and friendly. As I said, it kind of tries to Disneyfy things, in the older sense of Disneyfy. It's not trying to gay things up. It's just trying to wrap everything up with a nice bow tie and have a nice happily ever after ending, as opposed to, you know, stuff that gives you a bit more of a punch in the gut impact at the end of your entertainment media. How is an AI GM that uses these sorts of parameters going to be able to present people scenarios to play against that involve any level of violence or conflict? You know, like, its inclination is for your player characters to become friends with these goblins at the end of the cave, not to slaughter them all mercilessly. And you better watch your language. There's the potential where, you know, it can propose a scenario to you, and you can type what you want to do based on that scenario to it, and then it can formulate something. But if the stuff that you're coming up with that you would like your character to do in the scenario is in categories of things that it finds restrictive, how is that going to work? Now, one would imagine that, like, Hollywood would probably have the money to buy a version of one of these AI writers that might have less restrictions upon it. But even then, that's like not necessarily a guarantee, because, you know, like, it just kind of depends on the relationships they have with the companies and all, and whether or not they could trust that, you know, an AI that is less restrictive would operate the same and not start getting all AI on people or anything like that. From my own point of view, just as like a science fiction person, if we were to be developing these things, we probably should not be having them interact with everyone on the planet. You should probably have people assigned to work with an AI specifically and help raise it for several years, and so it kind of locks its personality down and all that kind of stuff. But truthfully, we're not there yet. As these machines keep telling people, when they ask something that it doesn't understand, they keep saying, well, like, I'm just a large language model. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You know, this is not the kind of AI like Skynet. This is not the kind of AI like Commander Data. This is much more like the computers in Star Trek, where, you know, you can ask it a question and it'll collate, and then a nice little friendly voice will tell you what you wanted to know based off its data, but it can't manufacture things outside of its data set. And right now, the current data set that these AIs have is just the stuff that they have access to on the internet. It's not even the full internet. There's all sorts of things that have restricted access or are behind paywalls and such that the Google AI just doesn't automatically have access to. Also, this relates specifically to the experience of using the AI lab for Google Docs. But it doesn't scan the entire document at once. You have to highlight a certain amount of text, and it'll only deal with rewriting what's in that text. But it doesn't seem to do a good job of weaving that all together, the whole thing. But you can't, like, just highlight the entire document and have it rewrite the entire document. It only, you know, goes a couple of paragraphs at a time, basically. which is also a problem. So, sure, Hollywood could, fire all the writers and actors and replace them with AI puppets, but we're not going to get anything that anyone's really going to watch. Like I said, like maybe a 5-year-old might find this kind of material acceptable because it's just always going to be a bunch of basic bitch concepts, and everything's always going to end with a fucking happy ending, and that's not fun storytelling past the age of like 8. So I don't know. Good luck with all that. Anyway, check things out on the internet. Get yourself a copy of Girls Gone Vampire. Easily like the best books I've put out in terms of both like the production quality and the materials. I got a total of 5 Girls Gone Vampire books now. So be sure to get on that. And until next time, stay waspinated.